Have you ever thought about leaving the business world to get into teaching, to get into higher education, teaching kids? Well, there's a huge shortage of teachers, and my next guest is going to talk about that. Welcome to the show, Eddie Renz. Eddie is the marketing director for iteach Texas. How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm good, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, you've been on the show before, and we appreciate you coming back because education is such an important topic. And this idea of leaving the business world to go teach, that may seem like a far-fetched idea to some, but from your perspective, why would that be an important career move?
Well, I think it's great whenever people have already been out in the corporate world, or maybe they're a firefighter, ex-military, and they can bring those skills and things that they've learned into the classroom, that discipline, that training. But also, it just brings a different perspective to the classroom for the students.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine. He was in the corporate world for probably 30 years doing human resources. He's still my phone a friend when I have HR related questions. He left to go teach junior high, and I have to be honest, I thought he was absolutely crazy when he made that decision. But you know, he's the happiest today than I've seen him in the entire time I've known him. So there's a lot of reward that goes into educating students, right?
There really is. I think that all jobs have difficulties and challenges, but few jobs are as rewarding, excuse me, as having a student's eyes light up whenever you're teaching them new information. Or oftentimes teachers wear many hats, where they're mentor, role model, even parent sometimes. And so as a teacher, you get to impact the world and impact the future by teaching a student.
Now that totally makes sense. Now, before you got into this field, Eddie, you were a serial entrepreneur yourself. You had a career helping out several different clients. What made you make the switch to working into this field?
Well, believe it or not, years ago, I actually went through a teacher certification program at UNT. And at the time, it was Dr. Diane Roselle, who later became Diane Huber, and she started iteach. And so, as life would have it, I didn't end up becoming a teacher, and I started doing graphic and web design, something that I love. And I became their main graphic and web designer for iteach. So I always loved being in the education space. I love being on college campuses. I'm actually back in school getting my MBA now at UNT. But yeah, it was an interesting path that led me here. When they offered me a full-time position last year, I thought, it'd be nice to really focus my efforts on one career. And one area that is a great need right now in our society, I believe, is education.
And how rewarding is it for you knowing that you are a part of the process of getting people into education and educating students?
It's super fun, and I actually love reading the testimonials, people saying this program allowed me to do something that was something I've always dreamed of. And once again, we hear people say, yes, it is challenging, but it is so rewarding. It is so much fun being around the students during the holidays, football games, cheerleading, all of that. I think sometimes whenever we're sitting at our desks in the day to day, we forget that there are people out there that get to experience that all the time and get summers off. So it's a real win-win.
That's definitely a perk. But speaking of perks, sort of the thing that you always hear, and kind of I wanted to put this to rest, is you get into teaching and you take a pay cut. Is that always the case today for teachers?
It definitely isn't. I know that Dallas ISD starts out at 56,000, and teacher salaries are continuing to increase. And people oftentimes don't do the math. A typical teacher works for a 187-day contract, where most of us work 260 days. And so if you were to divide that out, the salaries are oftentimes quite competitive. And there are a lot of different states that offer incentive packages, where there are some teachers who have been incentivized and can earn up to six figures. I think the average salary in Dallas ISD is 64K, 64,000. So it's a good career that pays, pretty decently when you look at all the benefits. And it's also a job that people will say is recession proof. Whenever pandemics or something happen, teachers are still essential. So it's a great job with great security. and the pay is continuing to increase.
Yeah, we'll talk about, essential. I think for those who ever question the value of a teacher, the shutdown put that to rest. We had our kids at home trying to help them do school and do work and do everything else. And my wife and I looked at each other and we both agreed, whatever we pay teachers, it's not enough.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a sentiment I've heard numerous times. And yeah, the pandemic helped us realize how much teachers do contribute to our lives and the security of our children. They really are with our students. Sometimes 40 hours a week, sometimes more if you consider extracurricular activities. And so, yeah, teachers really are truly valuable.
Eddie, there's been a lot of people walking away from their jobs. We've seen that nationally. We've seen it even here in Texas. And when we dive into the data, one of the reasons that people are walking away is they want more autonomy of their schedule. They want more work-life balance. Talk to me how being a teacher provides both autonomy and the lesson prep, as well as you've kind of already touched on a little bit, having that more work-life balance, having more time in the summer as well as time around the holidays.
Yeah, I think that you make a great point. Whenever someone, goes to work as an elementary teacher, I know that the one down the street, they actually end at 3 p.m. And so if your kids get out of school, oftentimes you can be home with them in the evenings. Oftentimes corporate jobs, you're sitting in traffic, your kids are at home for 2 or 3 hours before you even get there. And then of course with weekends off, most of the big holidays off, summers off, a lot of the people we have that go back to this profession are moms who had young kids at home and then they are now in school, and so they're sitting at home thinking, well, what can I do? I have an English degree, but I don't have a teacher certification. Well, now they can get a teacher certification online and be teaching with full pay in a matter of weeks. And so you don't even have to complete the program with iteach before you can start teaching, and you still have that great work-life balance. So to me, if somebody wants to do something that will impact the lives of students and future generations, is meaningful and provides joy. A lot of times people leave their careers because they're not very meaningful. They're not feeling like it's got a lot of purpose. And so teaching allows you to feel like you have meaning, purpose, and work-life balance. So it checks a lot of boxes.
Right. No, that does make sense. And we talk about the teacher's certification. How difficult is that process?
So our program it usually takes about a year for most people to complete. Some people complete it in 7 months, but the coursework is online. And depending on which state you're in, you have between, I believe, 7 to 8 courses that you have to complete. And so I wouldn't say that it is like a breeze, just like sign up and walk through. No, there is tests that you have to pass. But if you take, just as using Texas as an example, if you take 2 content area tests and you get your 30 hours of observation completed, then you can be hired to teach them a probationary certificate. And those 2 tests and that initial prep work, it usually can take people 30 to 60 days to do
Okay.
that. And so if you don't have a lot of money, you pay $99 a month, you get started, and then suddenly you've got a full-time job, especially with the shortage of teachers, and you can be teaching.
And
like
Eddie, do you recommend substitute teaching as sort of a step in that direction? Is that something that you guys talk about or recommend as well? And I got about 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, we have tons of substitute and paraprofessionals and teachers aides that step into this, and it's definitely a gateway to get this program going.
Eddie, in the time I have remaining, real quick, how can we get a hold of you?
Just go visit us at www.iteach.net or send us an email to admin@iteach.net, and we'll get you all the information you need.
Eddie, thank you so much. Who knows?
Thank
Maybe
you.
I'll be your next teacher. We'll have to talk about that.
I think you'd be great at it. Thank you so
I
much.
love to teach. That's awesome. All right, that's Eddie. I'm Scott Miller. We'll be back with more All In right after this.